did not realize that that there were people waiting in the wings. Well, I went ahead and started, so let's see. There's Ramesh. Ramesh, were you waiting for a while?
Yeah, I did, Margaret. So I think I've been put as an attendee. So
And I don't know if you followed the link to the panelist invite that I sent you. It's a special invite. It sounds like you registered for the regular registration. So don't worry about it. I'm going to promote you to panelist.
Okay,
Hey,
thanks.
you're getting a promotion.
Yeah.
I just promoted you, and now there are 3 of us on the panelist list. So I'm not able to raise my hand, but if either of you need to get my attention, I don't know if you're able to raise your hands and I would see them. Do you have a hand raising feature? Oh, I do see it. Okay, good. Good. That's good. And very good, Ramesh. Okay, great. And I think when participants raise their hand, they go to the top of the list so that, you know, first raise their hand, first serve, you know, it's fair. So thanks to the folks who have already joined us a little early. Glad to have you here. I see familiar names. That's awesome. And I think we're going to have about 8 people, maybe more are joining us. I'm not sure. And I think you're probably seeing the screen right now for the presentation.
Yeah, the beginning slide is showing.
And Liz, I don't have your name on there, but I should. And I'm thinking that Wendy's going to join us. I believe she is, but she may be pretty busy right now helping people. So we'll see.
For sure, yeah.
One of those last things I didn't update, but we can cover that in introductions. Yeah, Liz and I were just talking about how beautiful the gardens look in the sun, all these wonderful flowers. Right outside my window, I have my garden because during the whole global pandemic, I rearranged my living room so that I have the catbird seat at my desk so that the space I spend my time in telecommuting, I get to watch, you know, all the life outside and not feel so isolated. I recommend it to anyone who's still working from home. It's great to see the outdoors and sunlight when working. One of the perks of working from home. So we're going to get started at 2 or a minute after. For folks who have joined us in other meetings, you'll know that we try to give a minute for people to join us and participate. You know, Liz, what do you think of this? Since it's such a small group, I was thinking again of unmuting just so that people can unmute themselves and talk if they need to.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
I know the meeting's set up for everyone to be muted unless they raise their hand and etc. So your mic may be on now that I unmuted everybody, or it may be muted. The default, a good rule of thumb is to just mute when you're not speaking, and that way we don't have like the ambient leaf blower going in the background or things like that. But do feel free to ask questions at any point. And since we're waiting to get started, if anyone has questions before we get started, some of the names here I see were in previous training yesterday or today for account setup. And I'm curious to know how it went. If you want to add to the chat or you can speak up, let me know how your account setup went, how it's going, if it's in progress. Richard, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can just pipe in. So I set my account up right as soon as it went live. It went pretty smooth. Kind of just had to feel my way through it, and it worked out a lot better than I had anticipated.
Oh, good.
The only thing that was really confusing was the identity verification, because initially I thought that I just had to send it in and then wait for it to get process. And then it wasn't until the next day that I realized I could also fax it in.
Like, hey, wait a minute, I could get this in sooner.
Yeah, so because I had some certifications I was really wanting to get in and just try the system.
Oh, I see.
And so, yeah, once I got it faxed in and everything set up, it went pretty smooth.
Good. Yeah, the form itself, we send that in to the vendor to post in the system. So there are not the quick and easy temporary solutions for sending it to us built into the form itself. We have them in the account setup instructions though. So it is not as easy to find those instructions. So
No.
appreciate you discovering that. That's great.
Yeah, and I did, and I noticed you touched on it yesterday, but I did keep trying to go for that electronic verify, and I could not for the life of me figure out why it wouldn't allow me to do that. And then you explained
Oh.
that it wasn't.
So did it look like a grayed out option when you were in the system, or did it look like a possible way forward?
No, it was grayed out, and
Okay.
I thought that maybe I did something when I was doing my setup that didn't allow that option.
Right.
So I couldn't figure it out, and then it makes sense now that it just isn't live yet. And
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Yeah, it'll make things
Yeah.
a lot quicker as soon as we have that up and running. Because it's just it's a good system. It's a secure way to enter your personal info. Because we don't hold on, like, because it's e-verify through a different, like through, what is it, LexisNexis, I think. They have security measures in place to be able to receive your personal information to verify you, like I think social security number or something. We don't want to receive that or store it anywhere in any system. So we just can't move forward on that until all the things are set up for it. And that includes, of course, when you're talking about a state agency changing its processes, there are layers of permission that we work through to make sure that we can modernize.
Oh yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to it, but it's good to have some kind of solution for now so we can get started. I know one of the biggest interests that people had in this modernization for many of the programs is electronic payment, like being able to not have to process a requisition, to cut a check, to mail the check or hand deliver it, to be able to electronically pay. That's just nice and quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, we eventually hope to have credit card payment capability. That is something we don't have yet, but the system is able to do that. We just have to get permission from the legislature. Because again, with a state agency, when you make changes, you have to make sure that you have the right permission. So we will sort it out so that it's good and all set up and ready to go. But it'll take a little time. Yep.
Perfect. I do have some questions about the payment portion, but I'll wait, and I imagine we're going to get to that. So I will kind of wait until we come around to that part of it.
Yeah, we will get to that. So Kayla has a question. Is this going to be recorded to watch later? I am recording it right now. It is going to be recorded, and I need to figure out what the best way is to share it later. It may be that I can send a link, because I think I'm having it recorded to the Zoom cloud. So I may be able to send you a link afterwards, and towards the end of this week, I'll figure that out and follow up with you guys. But if you do have questions afterwards, you can always contact us. But I would like to make it available after the meeting so that people can see and review. The other thing is that this presentation is really based on the guide document that's on the help page. So all the information, I think all of the information, because I made sure to update that, will also be on the user guide for GTP submittals, as we call them, or tanker certification applications. So you would be able to see that information there with screenshots. And I think there's a little more information there. What my spoken word is during the meeting is a kind of version of what we wrote out in the document. So hopefully that helps too. So, and it's nice to have things at your fingertips when there's not a specific scheduled meeting. It's nice to have things available when you need them. So we have that on the help page. if you click on the bar that is, it's like a drop down accordion for gasoline transporter permits. So it looks like it's 2:02. I see a number of people joining us. I have the screen up for your DEQ Online gasoline tanker submittals. That's what we're going to be talking about. So I see familiar names here. This is exciting. My name is Margaret Gardner, and I'm the project change manager and the Your DEQ Online trainer. My buddy Liz Pizer is also your DEQ Online trainer, and she's not listed on the slide, but she is one of our panelists. And then Ramesh Manikam is a DEQ business analyst and risk manager for the project, and he has been working very intensely on the system to prepare it for this particular function. So it's great to have you, an expert in the room. And then also Wendy Morency is joining us, and she is our wonderful Your DEQ Online help desk contact. If you have questions or you need help, she is likely to be in that communication pathway to get you the help that you need. So Wendy's been an incredible help, and she keeps an eye on the Your DEQ Online email, incoming emails, to make sure they go to where they go. And when you set up your account and did the electronic signature agreement, Wendy had a hand in that too. So thank you, Wendy. Wonderful work. So if you're not interested in gasoline tanker submittals, you might be in the wrong place. If you're curious about them, just out of pure curiosity, that's fine. But if it doesn't relate to gasoline tanker submittals, you might be disappointed in the class, because that's what it's all about. So I am guessing that everyone in this group is definitely here for this. So that's great. And as I mentioned to Kayla earlier, we are recording this, but there's also a user guide for going through the submittal process that's available to you on the help page. And we will go over some things right now about how to do a Zoom meeting. So this is just orientation to this kind of way that we're meeting, so that you feel comfortable and know what the plan is for how we'll interact. You can listen through computers. Some people call in by phone. There are a couple different controls that are really helpful when you're participating. There's the chat. We use the chat for technical questions and notes from the panelists. Let's say, for instance, you're not able to hear the presentation. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Or if there's something else like that that's kind of technical or logistical. Also, if the panelists have a comment to make, you can see there I had a comment, hey, if you're joining before 2, etc. If you would like to ask a question, you have a couple options. You could raise your hand and then take a turn to ask your question, unmute. I unmuted everybody in advance. I may have missed some people if you joined after I did that. But yeah, let's see, I'll unmute some people here. So you can do that, or you can, oops, I don't know what I'm doing. Wendy, I think I asked you to unmute accidentally. I just double clicked your button there. Sorry about that. You can stay muted if you want to. That was just my little user error. So yeah, Q&A is a great place to ask questions, because as the panelists, we see them and we can track whether we've answered them or not. We can type in the answers. It's a good way to make sure that your answer gets, or your question gets an answer. Sometimes when there's messages in the chat, it's an extra window to open and things can scroll kind of fast and get buried. So just to make sure that your questions get answered, please use the Q&A. Or raise your hand and ask your question. That could, like I said, that could go either way. So that's just orienting to this interface. A number of you were in previous classes, so you are familiar with this. So now you're old pros at it. So the topics for today. The introduction, we'll do a brief review. A lot of you have been in the recent training, so we're not going to belabor the kind of what you need to do to get started. And then we'll get into gasoline tanker submittal, what those steps are. And then we'll talk more about training and support, which we always begin with a little intro and we end with resources, but really the meat of the matter is the gasoline tanker submittals. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to just go ahead and move forward. Introduction. So we talked about this earlier. This system is cloud-based. We're in an era where cloud-based can also be secure. So it's cloud-based and secure. We're able to protect confidential information, but also we're able to connect better. When something's cloud-based, more people have access to it from different points. So more access, but at the same time, security, right? It's also centralized. So that cloud-based quality enables us to work across the state with each other as DEQ staff members, but also to support the people that we work with across the state who need certifications, applications to fulfill reporting obligations and what have you. So we can team up to better serve the community in Oregon. Also, the sustainability cuts in a couple ways. One is we're using less paper. We're able to telecommute more easily when we use a system like this, right? Because we're not locked to paper and having to, hop in a car and drive around to go to where the paper is. But also the sustainability, besides that carbon footprint, is that we have a dedicated vendor who supports this system, and it's their expertise in environmental data management systems that enables us to use this system. So they will continue to update it. They are responsive to any issues that might need fixing or any kind of maintenance or ongoing upkeep. So that's a great relationship to have to keep this fresh and modern, so that we can have it be a good system that lasts a while. So that's about the system. I wanted to talk a little bit about what this modernization brings. What are the changes for this program? The gasoline transporter program, also called the vapor recovery tanker program, tanker certification, tanker permits. I know there are a lot of ways that people talk about it, and even on our DEQ website, it's kind of talked about in a couple of different ways. So just so that you know, we're talking about tankers, whether they're the rig itself or the tank itself, just tankers that need to be certified for the vapor recovery program. And let's see, I'm gonna just go ahead and do that. And then, so more fee payment options is one of the big changes. Online payment through ePay or regular check by mail, so you still have that option. We will talk about that when we go through the process. No more advanced payments. That's something that we're just not able to do with the new system when it comes to taking a bigger lump sum so that you can have it applied to these little $25 increments through the year. What we have to shift to now is just pay each $25. If you're doing multiple submittals, we can talk more about that, what that involves in terms of payments. But we can't take advance payments. And the trade-off is we get to do electronic payments. So that's great. And then also getting your permit sticker. So that's changed because once you complete the submittal, you actually have access to a temporary printable certification while you're waiting for the DEQ sticker to mail to you. So those are some things about this. There may be, there are other adjustments to this new system, but those are some of the notable ones. Also terminology. You'll hear us talk about submittals a lot because this is a system that brings a lot of programs together. There's a certain amount of standardizing our language that we've needed to do. So some programs, they do rule authorizations, and that's a very specific name of a specific service. Some are just receiving reporting from people who have reporting obligations. Some are doing certifications to individuals or to tankers or to companies or what have you. So we're using submittals as a catch-all because it's something you submit to the agency. So that just kind of makes sense. But it really is a catch-all. The other term you'll hear that I know that at first I was like, wait a minute, I keep forgetting. What does that stand for? ACH, Automated Clearinghouse. You remember those giant checks that, what was it? It was I forget who it was, the guy who would come to your door with a giant check because you won the clearinghouse, publisher clearinghouse award for like subscribing to magazines. This is not that. But this is a way that it's a network for electronic funds transfer. So if you see ACH, what that stands for is an e-check or e-payment. And what that boils down to is entering your bank account routing number, and that's how you transfer the money. So it's a funds transfer that's different from a credit card payment. So automated clearinghouse is what that stands for. And now we can promptly forget about that and just remember ACH means e-payment. So issuance, we do talk about issuance as well, because just like submittals, what we deliver as DEQ after a process has been completed varies. So it could be a permit, it could be a certification, it could be all kinds of things, right? But an issuance in its purest form means this is what we deliver to you. So just so that we're aware of the terminology, if you come across that and if it gets confusing, this gives a little prep. But you know, with new stuff, it's good to repeat it. So just please feel free to ask me if you're wondering, you know, wait a minute, what was that term again? You can feel free to ask. We're all kind of adjusting to change at all times, like we have through the whole pandemic year. We're just adjusting to changing environment. And this is just one of those additional changes. So we can navigate it. We have the wherewithal. So this is just kind of some things that are changing as a result of this project or this new system. So we talked about the concept of account types when we had the two trainings earlier today and yesterday, setting up your account. There are 3 types of accounts, and it's kind of like levels of membership to like an organization or a museum or garden or something. There's the general first level. And then if you go to the next level, you additionally have more abilities. And then the top level, you have the Cadillac of abilities. So what we can see here is you would need to have an account either as a consultant or a responsible official in order to submit a submittal for a tanker certification. And that's because either as a consultant, you would have the ability to prepare submittals if the RO, the responsible official, links you. You'd be able to pay invoices and do all kinds of stuff as long as the responsible official links you to that. And as the responsible official, you can do all that and more. You can amend, renew, withdraw, and manage submittals. The responsible official has the added benefit of having to complete the identity verification so that we know for sure that you're on the hook for the responsibility of certifying a submittal. So those 3 levels, if you're ever confused about which one should I sign up for, you can always consult with us. We're happy to help you. But generally, most people are signing up for the responsible official because they have that responsibility to complete a form and send it in. So if before you completed the paper form and mailed it in, then you're probably, and with a check, then you're probably the same person who would do that function as a responsible official. But you can always consult with your, you know, whoever it is in your place of work that would have authority over that kind of thing. So knowing which account type is right for you. The instructions are on the Your DEQ Online help page for setting up your account. If you go to greenhouse gas reporting, that bar at the bottom of the page, you click on it and you'll see a couple links to resources and then all the training dates. So you registered for this, you were in that location, and you'll be able to find your way back to it. So the other thing to prepare for before a submittal is you do need to have already linked your, after your identity verification, of course, as an RO, you would need to link to submittal groups and facilities. And then with your abilities and access to those, you would be able to delegate the permissions to consultants. So if you're an RO, you would select submittal groups, let's say 401, gasoline transporter permits, etc. And then you'd link your company, your facility, Alaska Tanker LLC, what have you. Then, because you have that permission, you can delegate it. So when you link to the consultants, you can say, all right, Joe Frazier here, I have his exact email address. I'm going to enter it. His name is going to pop up because he already set up an account, and I'm going to link to him. And then I'm going to assign him one of the facilities from my own list and one of the submittal types from my own list. So you can delegate what you have access to. You can't really delegate other people's access. I think you get what I'm saying there. And that's also in the instruction document. So this brings us now, that was just kind of a little warm up there. Are there any questions before we move into this next phase? And I'll just talk about what the topics are. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. We'll do the how to get started, making a payment, reviewing and completing the submittal, and then how to track status and issuance. So here we are at the public portal. The first step, of course, logging in. And once you log in, typically you would land on this dashboard. As you may have remembered from the account setup training, if you hover over the little dashboard icon or click on that, it opens up a little expanded box so that you can see what each of these is. At the bottom is the one that's like an ID badge, and that takes you to what's called My Account. Now, this image was taken from a just a sample account that we were testing with. So in the upper right corner, somebody named Air GTP, and they haven't added a photo to their account yet, has their information right there. That actually is a link to the My Account page. So you could click on that too. So either of those is a way to get to your account. So that's just to recall your memory. If you wanted to go to a submittal, however, a new submittal, you could click on this bar, and when it opens up, you'll see at the top is Start New Submittal. That's kind of nice. You also have other ones here that you'll get familiar with, but particularly Start New Submittal. As you get familiar with that, that's pretty easy to just, oh, look, there's a plus sign. I'll start a new submittal. Once you click that, you will see the option that you have in your account, gasoline transporter permit. In order to start it, you would click this golden plus sign here to get going, and it'll open up the step-by-step form that you fill out. So here it is. Everybody with me here? Raise your hand if you need me to slow down. Everybody okay? Good. Excellent. I know I'm just talking and talking. It's a whole big lecture. So feel free to stop me if you have questions, or if you've done any of this and you have comments, you can do that too. As I mentioned, this is a system that applies to a lot of programs. So sometimes the features may not apply to this submittal, even though they are part of the design of the system. And a great example is this attachment right here. You know, we don't really, there's not a need for any attachments with this application. So although we have 5 steps listed here, it's really 4 steps. So there, we saved some time. So first, basic information, and you can see here the required fields are outlined in red, and they even say required right under them. So you know what the bare minimum is to get this started. Once you complete that basic information, always click save before you proceed. And I mentioned this before in other trainings. It's the old-timey floppy disk symbol that is now universal. I have a feeling some millennials may not even know what that symbol stands for, but if we've been around a while, we remember the days of floppy disks. So it's kind of, you know, it's nostalgic. You can click the save button to make sure that whatever you enter here is saved. And because it's a modern system, anything you enter here, when you go to open a PDF or something like that that's based on your submittal, this is the heart of that information that gets populated. When you see your address in a submittal, it's drawing directly from this page. So basic information, really great to get that right, get it sorted out. Once you click save and go to the next tab, again, we're skipping over. Oh, I wanted to stop and mention this. So I added this slide so you could know this. We talked in the preview back in the, when was that? I think it was late fall. We did a little preview session with some folks and discovered that really the VIN number was previously what we would accept, you know, a VIN number or whatever kind of reference number. It is now the tanker serial number that goes into this form. So what you see here is a snapshot from a previous time. Things happened rapidly, but it is the manufacturer, it's not the manufacturer VIN, it is now the tanker serial number that goes here. Does that make sense? So always click save. And then now we got started. That's it. Check that box. And now we're making a payment. So the payment options are ACH. Remember that fun little acronym? E-payment. That's all it means. Make an electronic fund transfer with your bank account. That is the quickest way to move through the submission. You can still send a check by mail. If that's what your company needs to do in their business, that is fine. Print the submittal receipt, mail the paper check to the address as indicated on the receipt. So that's a really important change to remember too, is that that address is not going to be DEQ. It's going to be a bank lockbox. Because this is an electronic system, we actually have shortened the time that a check gets processed too. Instead of the check going to DEQ and getting passed around to accounting and then getting deposited and et cetera, by sending it to that lockbox, they scan and immediately apply that payment. It goes to a report to us in this system, and it is a much quicker way. So just make sure you're using the address on that submittals receipt. It's super important. And then also, as I mentioned before, we no longer take advance payments. If you have multiple tankers and you like to pay in advance each year, I am so sorry to say it's not something we can do with the new system. But with faster payment methods, there's an upside to that. So, and I see there's a question. Richard, you had a question, and we're going to talk more about payments. We'll go step by step. But do you have a question that?
I do have a question. I was kind of going to type it out, but it was very long to try to type out.
Oh, yeah, just say it.
In the chat. So on the actual paper certification forms, when previously we would send them in and then we would get them back, they would be signed because there's 2 sections for DEQ use only. Now, so from this point forward, those are no longer going to be signed. Is there any foreseen problems with this, like at fuel loading racks or anything like that?
I'm not thinking that there's any foreseen problems with it. If it is the PDF that's generated by the system, then it has been processed by DEQ.
Right. So like I've already submitted 2 and gotten 2 permits back.
Okay.
And initially in the system, you're able to print out, it's just basically
a temporary, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it just kind of has a permit number. But what I've noticed is like the 2 that I've done had the same permit number.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so like, I mean, I was a little thrown off by it, and that's why I haven't sent the ones that I've already done into the loading racks, because these are some questions I wanted to ask first.
Right. So I'm going to ask that,
So
go ahead, Ramesh, you have an answer?
So Richard, the permit number remains the same for the facility, the trucking facility. It's the serial number for the tanker that's going to be different.
Oh, okay. So yes,
Oh, okay.
so our facility will have the same permit number on all permits.
That's right. So that's why you'd see the same permit number across all the certificates. But if you look one below where it says serial number, that's going to be unique for the particular tanker.
Right. So it was that permit number that kind of threw me off. And like I said, in previously when we would submit them, we would get them back. They would be signed.
Right. So I'm sorry, Richard. So what Betsy is going to start doing now, from now on, when she actually issues that certificate, she's actually going to be typing the the serial number right next to the permit number as well. So when you actually see it on your dashboard, you should see the permit number right by the side of it. You should see the serial number as well. So that way you know that it is for this particular tanker. The other one is for the other tanker.
Oh yeah, I've seen that on the two that I've done. Like I guess my only question was like, because when we send these off to the loading racks, sometimes they can get a little picky about the paperwork and not being signed. I was just curious if that was probably going to be any kind of an issue. But so I've got my first 2 permits back even in the mail. So I think
great.
send them off and see how that goes.
Okay.
It's a great question, Richard. And then Ramesh, if you don't mind just capturing a note on that so that I can add that to the submittal instructions. I think that's a really good one to note there, just so that people know what to expect, because that sounds like it's a change from what people saw previously. So if you could just make a note to, and then we can touch base after this session, and then we can loop around and make sure the instructions are updated. And then I see another question here from Kayla. Thanks, Kayla. Only our accounts payable have access to the bank account. What would be the best way to set this up for us? Can an RO delegate and have the consultant submit the payments? Yes, I would say have the accounting people, the ones with the purse strings who have the bank accounts, set up a consultant account and then send you the exact email address that they used for that, or send the RO that. And then once that's set up, have the RO delegate to them. And I believe that then the RO would be able to, or the consultant role that's able to go into the system would be able to go find that submittal and make that payment and save it. And then the RO could go back in and submit. And I'm just typing that in up. Okay, good, got that answer in there. And then another question, Keith, thank you. Elizabeth said they're working on a printable PDF signed certificate with decal by the end of the week for the loading racks. So Betsy or Ramesh, I don't know if Betsy is here. Do you have information on that, Ramesh?
No, I don't, Margaret, unfortunately. I don't think Betsy is here. She might be figuring out a different solution for this. I'm gonna have to talk to her on that though.
Okay, so Ramesh, can we capture Keith's name so Betsy can get back to him?
Okay.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Keith, for that question. So we don't have an answer for you, but what we'll do is we'll see how we can get Betsy looping back in with you, and we'll get in the loop too. And Richard, another question, so thank you. Will the payment information need to be entered for each submittal, or is it saved in the system? No, we don't save, we don't hold on to the payment information. That would be sensitive information. It would be tough to hold on to. That just gets routed through a secure system, but we don't save it. And more questions, this is great. Will the loading racks know this is changing? So is this what they refer to as the tank farms? Is that the same thing? I believe Betsy is working on that. So thanks for answering that, Keith. I appreciate the teamwork here. These are great questions to come up. So we're at 2:30, and I just want to make sure we go through the step-by-step screens. I think that those are answered. This is great that you guys are using the Q&A so we can catch this. Yes, tank farms. Thanks, Dale. Now I get it. And that's kind of like those big rolls of wheat you see in the fields that they harvested. That would be what the tanks look like after they harvest them, right? Now, I just immediately imagined fields with tanks speckled across them, like they're growing them. But I get what you're saying. The tank farms, that is the racks. Okay,
so,
great.
So yeah, so if it is the tank farms, yeah, Betsy is working on coming up with a communication on that. So
that's great. Yeah, that sounds good.
I wasn't sure what we were talking about, so yeah, thanks.
Yep, that's the tank farms, and that's the loading racks. So that's good. That's good to know. Richard, you have your hand up. Do you have another question? Okay, and now his hand's down. Okay, no problem. Okay, great. So really good questions coming in here. So we'll just step into what the payment process looks like. Let's see here. And oh, I better click through these since they are done. Great. Now we're all fresh. If new questions come in, we'll recognize this. All right, so payment tab. Once you go to the payment tab, remember we were skipping over attachment because we don't need to do that. So with the payments, you see your balance right here. You see the pay amount due, and that's what you click in order to get started on the process. This is what takes you to two different choices. We'll start by describing the electronic payment, and that's the first little radio button here. It's automated clearinghouse, as I mentioned, payment method, which really means ePay, and the button here even says it, launch ePay. It's a secure module. It takes you out of your DEQ Online into a very closely related, connected financial information management system that's managed by our same vendor, and it is secure. It's connected to US Bank so that that payment is entered and smoothly goes through the process it needs to go through to get accounted for in the right way. And after we go through that, we'll go through a couple of those steps. You'll see what that looks like. And then it'll come back here, but you'll see that there's a zero balance because the payment was made. You'll still need to click save so that that's saved into the system. So once you click that, it brings you out to this form, State of Oregon, Department of Environmental Quality, make a payment. And this is where you would review the contact information. This was pulled from the basic information tab of your account, nicely connected. Step 2 would be entering that routing number, the bank account number. If you have someone else that does the payments and has the information about the payment, bank account payment and stuff like that, they're gonna recognize this and they're gonna know exactly what to do with this. And then enter bank account information, and then they can click continue. Once you've clicked continue, step 4 is to say, I accept the terms and conditions, and then click confirm. Finally, step 6 to pop out of this financial information system is to return to home. And this brings you back to that page that we were just on. It'll show a zero balance and it'll say, well, it won't prompt you to save. You'll just need to remember, click the old-timey floppy disk save button. And if anyone here is still using floppy disks, I just salute you. I don't know who uses them anymore, but I just love that it's a lasting symbol in our technology world. So here we are back at the payment choices. This is what you would do if you were to pay by check. You'd select the button that says pay by check. And by checking the box over here, this makes sure that it pulls information for payment into your submittal receipt. So by following these 3 steps, 1, 2, and then 3 is always save, or the last one's always save, you'll enable that submittal receipt to have the right information for you. So that when we get to that step, you'll see that that's when you generate the document that's what you mail in physically with the physical check, and it includes the address it needs to go to. So, okay, let's see. Now I see some questions here, and I don't know if they're directly related to what we're talking about. It looks like Ramesh is typing the answer. Keith had the question about the ability to list more than one testing facility to choose from.
Margaret, I'd like to talk to that though. So Keith, the way it's been changed now, it's not like it's a drop down. So the test facility, you'll have to type it in. The name of the test facility that was used to test that tanker, you got to type that in.
Okay, I was trying to add testing facilities and it was only able to list to one location. I mean, you could list the name of the company or individual that's testing. However, the location, I was only able to list just our company's mailing address.
Mhm.
So like, for example, if we're using Equipment Mobile Services in Eugene, I would not be able to list that as a second testing facility, versus Ed Staub and Sons in Klamath Falls, Oregon.
But when you apply for a permit for one tanker, right, for this particular year, you would have used a particular test facility to do that testing for that particular tanker, right? So for that application, for that submittal, you would provide the information for which test facility was used. You'd have to type.
So like this week, I did 2, and the company that did the testing was Ed Staub and Sons.
Okay.
So I listed them. However,
So that was-
the location, you can list whatever company you want on it. However, it only lets you list one location where you tested, to choose from. So maybe that's not required to put down the location where it was tested at.
Yeah, all we are looking for is if you look in the application, all we're looking for is the test facility's name and the numbers, though, the vacuum numbers and the pressure number. That's all we're asking for in the application.
Okay, so where it says select your facility.
Oh, select your facility, that is for the trucking company, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, great.
And
I
then
went back to this, I don't know if this basic info page is where you would find it, Ramesh.
Yeah. So what Keith is talking about is at the top where you say select your facility. That's the trucking company's name.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one that you would link to, Keith. Once you create your account, you'd have to link to that account as a link to that facility. That's what will show up in the dropdown.
Okay.
So, however many facilities you link to, all will start to show up in that dropdown.
Right, so when you click this little arrow here, you're gonna see a list of choices as long as you have linked to them in your account setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was talking about, if you come down where it says test conducted by business name, that one is the tester company that was doing the testing, though. So there you got to type the name
This
of the
is
tester.
down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just put their business name. It's not required to have their exact location then.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
And then
That
Kayla,
was a really good clarification. And if that's a change from what the paper form was, Ramesh, we'll want to probably mention that in the instructions. So that sounds good.
it's a great question, though. Thank you, Keith. Yeah. And Kayla has a question.
Yeah, and Ramesh, can I just stop you for a sec? Could you just capture that in the notes that you'll send me so that we make sure we just close the loop on that with the instructions? Because I think that this is, if Keith's asking that question, it means that it's a change in what he did before, or potentially is, right? Or it's just, well, wait a minute, this is a different setup in this form. How do I navigate this? So I think it'll be good for us to update the instructions accordingly. Okay. And then, so thanks for that, Ramesh. And then Kayla asks, since we submit so many at a time, is there a way for our accounts payable to go in and pay for multiple at a time, like a running total? What do you think, Ramesh? Is that possible?
Yeah, you can turn in one check for 5 different applications, and we can split that out. But you cannot do prepay, though. If that's what you're asking, you cannot do prepay because we can only offer services to what's being paid for. But if you're sending in 2 applications and you're sending $50, one check for $50, that's okay. We can.
So Ramesh, just to clarify, when you say prepay, you mean the electronic payment that's immediate, right?
No. I'm saying like a big balance. You want to maintain a big balance in your account. You cannot do that.
We can't carry a big balance. We can't carry any encumbrance.
Yeah. But
so what this, I think what you're saying, and Ramesh, just tell me if this is right. Kayla, if somebody is paying by a physical check, they would be able to, then the person submitting this would check the box for a check by mail payment. And that submittal address for the submittal receipt would be the same lockbox address. So let's say that person in accounting has a stack of submittal receipts that they're going to send one check with for $75 for a stack of 3 submittals. they can mail that to that address and the bank will be able to split that out. As long as they have those submittals receipts, they will be able to assign that to the right accounts. And then as soon as they process it, they move forward. But question to you, Ramesh, will it tally the total for a facility so that there can be one e-check? That's another question. Can there be one e-check for 3 different submittals?
No, e-check comes with a predetermined amount of $25, right? So
Right, so that would be one by one.
one by one. But
Yeah,
if you send a check for 3 submittals, you'd have to send in those 3 payment coupons or the receipts. And then the US bank will do the splitting of that $75 for three different permits.
right. So there may be some advantages to sending a physical check to the lockbox on the submittal receipt if there are multiple, and your accounting group may prefer doing that. All right, good. Well, it sounds like I don't know if you want to type in any answers for these, Ramesh. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. I just see that we have a little under 20 minutes and we're doing good on time. I just want to keep moving, but that was a great question, Kayla. Really good one, because sometimes there are multiple submittals and how do you navigate that? It used to be that you could just do it differently than now. So let's see. Basic info. I think I skipped ahead. I skipped behind in order to backtrack and look at that, but we're going to go forward. So I think where we were was paying by check. This checkbox means that later in the process, when you're completing things, you'll generate the submittal receipt that we were talking about that has the lockbox address on it. So we finished getting started. We finished making the payment. It's review and complete time. This lady looks very happy about it. I would be too. Oh, good. We finally got to review and complete. So this is good. Here we are in the review tab. And again, the consultant can go, if there's a consultant who's preparing all this, they can get all the way up to this point. So you can click on this PDF and that'll help you review the application before submitting it. Now, this is not the submittal receipt. Those are 2 different things. This is the application that you'd be reviewing. And the submittal receipt is what you get after certification and final submittal. So if any changes are needed, when you review this PDF, that's when you navigate back to those related tabs, make those adjustments. Always click save after your changes. And it's really good to check this, because if you check this PDF and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I entered something different there. It could possibly be that you forgot about the save button. It's way down in this corner. So you can always go right back and check it and finish that. So once you have clicked and saved, this bumps you over to, well, this is what you see on the PDF. I should stop there for a sec. So this is the application, and this is where you would review. Is this the right place? Here's the VIN number, but of course that'll be the tanker serial number, tank capacity, all of these different pieces. And once you're sure that that's all good, let's see, let's go back for just a second. Once you've clicked save, then you can move to the submission tab. This is where the RO can take action, but it can't be delegated to a consultant. So maybe you have a consultant doing the payment, and then they say, hey, I made the payment, I completed it. You can go in and review and submit now. That would be some communication between you and your consultant who makes payments, for instance. Or if there's someone preparing all this and then passes it off to the RO for submittal, that would be the communication that you want to have to get it to this point. So the responsible official goes in and makes sure that they agree with this declaration. I have read and agree to the above certification statement. Go ahead and check that. And then there's the security question and PIN number. And this actually goes back to that account setup. So when you're an RO and you do your identity validation, you also have those 5 security questions and that 1 PIN number. So that's why it's important to remember those. When you're in your account, you can always update those if you like to, but always remember what they are, because if you're an RO and you're submitting, you need to be able to answer one of those random questions that you selected. It'll choose from the 5, one of the 5, it'll just randomly select. And there'll be your PIN number needs to be entered there too. And that is part of your electronic signature. So this, once you do this, it's going to activate the submit button. This lights up, the submit button at the bottom. I see a question. One more question regarding payments. Oh yeah, good. Do you think there's a maximum amount of submittal paid by one check? As long as the submittal receipts that are applying to that check, or each, so let's say it's a check for $200 and all of those submittal receipts are with it, all 8 of them, right? Because it's $25 each. Then the bank will be able to say, we're going to just dish it out to each of those, and they are now paid. So that's how that works. So I believe it, it can be a check for all those submittals, but those submittal receipts need to be with it. So we can't take checks without submittal receipts because the bank won't have any way to know how they apply in the system. The robots in the bank, the automated processes won't be able to compute that. So always include each of the submittal receipts. Ramesh, that's correct, right? Is there any limit?
Yeah.
There's no limit, right?
That's correct, Margaret. Just to add to that, yeah, there is no upper limit on how many submittals you can submit, as long as the check amount matches the total number of submittals that you're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no limit. Yeah, the
Yeah.
system does not put a limit on it.
Yeah, that's a good question too. These are good details. I'm really appreciating the questions. You guys have the hands-on experience over the years with this, so you know what to ask. So after certifying and entering the security information, the submittal or the submit button lights up for the RO, and it's time to click it. So once you click that button, it's confirmed. Yay, submission successful. And what you'll see there is confirmation of submittal. Your application has been received. It will be reviewed shortly. This is where you can go ahead and print. And this is that print button opens up the submittal receipt that we've been talking so much about with that awesome lockbox address. It's in 2 locations on the page. If you click this print button, same thing. This print button, same thing. And you can go ahead and print that. Make sure that you print 1 for each submittal. I believe you can go back into this submittal if you need to reprint it. And that's correct, right, Ramesh? Because if somebody, let's say somebody leaves this window, but then they're like, wait a minute, did I get all their submittal receipts for this check for $500? Let me double check and make sure. They should be able to go back in and print that. If you have any problems with that, you would call the help desk, of course. But after you do that, you would finish. And this is what the submittal receipt looks like. Submittal summary, form detail. Look at that. Payment information, balance due. Here's the measly $25. It's not a whole bunch of them, right? It's just the 25. But that means each of these is just going to have $25 on it. So if you have 5 of them, each will have 25. But because this is one program at DEQ, it's going to have the same lockbox address. So DEQ Financial Services, LBX for lockbox. There's a number associated with it, a PO box 3615. I believe this is the right one because I think we generated this example recently. So this is probably the current address, but really you always need that submittal with it. You can't just jot down the address. It needs the whole thing because there's a scanning process where it looks at all this info and receives that. So make check payable to Department of Environmental Quality, but it's being mailed here. Oh, good. I just answered AJ's question. That's nice. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, be sure to use that mailing address. Super important. If it's not routed that way, there will be delays because we'll need to have a lot more people touching that check to get it to the right place. It just is going to be taking more time. And so there's that. Let's see, where are we next? Any questions before we talk about tracking and the issuance? So 2:52, we're doing great on time. I'm loving all the questions, really good stuff. Ramesh captured a bunch of it so we can improve that user guide further. You have contributed to future users' knowledge, so thank you. And here's what tracking submission looks like. So remember when we talked about this little side channel here where there are all these little functions? You can kind of open it up and see what the description is. This one is an image for tracking submittal. If you're not sure and you haven't committed it to memory, you just click here and it all opens up and you see the descriptions. So click on the track your submittal link and then it results in all your submittals. Click the eye to view the status. This is a little eye icon for viewing and you can view the status and it opens up the submittal summary. So when you look at the status, it shows you what the balance is. Oh, look, 0 balance, how nice. Gasoline transporter permit, that's what the permit is. This is who it's for. The review flow box is kind of cool. This is where you see where it is in the step-by-step process. So currently it's in yellow because the review is underway. Next, it'll be issue. This is a 2-step process for the DEQ side of things. Once we receive the application, it's being received. In between receiving and issuing, the check has to arrive. So either it's an electronic payment and that is already clear, or the check just needs to be sent to the lockbox and our team is able to check our reports from US Bank and confirm that all set. Great, can move forward on issuance. And that can happen in a pretty quick turnover versus what we used to do. So review the flow. This is what it looks like when it's in progress and the payment needs to be received before certification is completed. And then this is what that same flow looks like when everything's done. So receive application, that's done, check. Issue certification, check, that's done. And you can see these forms and receipts right here, submittal documents, easy to access. So let's see. What else is on this page? Approved, right, that is another thing. So complete submittal, that means the submittal has been completed, but now it's approved, as we can see in that little status box. So that's some of the tracking. Now let's go to that issuance. Again, it's the structure with tabs across the top to navigate. So if you wanted to download the issued certification, you would go ahead and click the PDF that's right here in this box for the final documents. There it is. Supporting documents, none, but that's because we don't do attachments for this. And then once you've clicked this PDF button on your browser, you're likely to see this little downloading image at the bottom banner. You can generally click that to see where it went. Usually, depending on how you've set up your browser, it's probably going to your downloads folder. But you can always search for that title and you can click it to decide whether you want to open it, open the folder it's in, etc. That's standard, like just computer browser functions. But that's where you'll see that. And when we're celebrating it's all done and you get your sticker, it looks like this. So it's typical sticker. It's a permanent super sticky, so it doesn't come off in the weather. Ramesh mentioned that the permit number is going to be the same for the facility, but the serial number is what changes for each tanker. Test date, expiration date. So once it's certified, DEQ will mail this sticker to the address provided on the form. And let's see if there are any other. Oh, Keith, you have your hand up. What's up?
So on this particular issuance of a certificate, this is the product that the other gentleman was talking about sending to the loading racks. Currently comes up as just a little bit of information on a Word document from the delivery vessel certificate.
Mhm.
And yes, Betsy is working on getting this product to where it's downloadable off the site by the end of the week, is what she said.
Okay, great. And what's the information that the racks need? They need, do they need to be able to associate with that like printed PDF with this sticker so that this sticker finds its way to the right tanker?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
they want the inform like the 204024 and then the information below that. That currently is downloadable off the site or the website
Mm-hmm.
via Word document, but it doesn't have the rest of the information on it.
Oh, so the Word document does not have the serial number, the test date, or the expiration date yet.
It does, Margaret. It does.
It does.
What Keith is talking about is there's additional information in that PDF. That
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
So she's,
But
Yeah.
the way you have it presented on the screen, that final product would, I mean, that would work, you know.
yeah. So
As
this,
a sticker, yeah.
yeah, I'll circle back with Betsy on that. You see that the staple mark right there, Margaret?
Yeah, I do.
So that's she staples that sticker to a paperwork, and that paperwork is what I think they're talking about. And I'll find out from Betsy when or what she's planning on that.
Okay.
Correct.
And then what she'll do is, she has everybody's email addresses, I believe, who she, you know, all of the folks who are, especially in the system now that we're using an electronic system. So she'll be able to communicate that out. And then, Richard, you had your hand up. Did that answer your question, Keith?
Good to go. Yes.
Okay, good. And then Richard, you had a question?
I didn't have a question. What I was going to say is, so it's like what right now, what you can download is what you have up here on the screen minus the red sticker.
Okay, it's just these items here. Okay.
Right. And previously what Betsy would do is she would staple the sticker, scan it, and email it back to us. And then we can send
Okay,
that whole form to the rack is what we
right.
do. So yeah.
I see. Okay, good. Well, it'll be more to come on that. That's good. So we're going to work through that, and then Betsy will let folks know what to expect.
This was such a great group, though. And thank you all for being in
And
it.
I just have a couple more things to cover. So I want to make sure people are familiar with this page. This is where you would have signed up for the training. But this video, very heartwarming video about how this is improving things for everybody involved. There's the portal login from this page and the help desk if you have technical issues. Also training, anytime there's additional training, and this is also where you'll find user guides, account registration guide, gasoline transporter submittal instructions, and then also the help desk. This is what it looks like. To click on this, you would then fill out a form for your technical request. If you have general questions, you can contact your DEQ online or at DEQ or the phone number. So I just wanted to make sure to cover that because we're at 3 o'clock. Want to respect people's time. Any additional questions, please let us know. I do see, yeah, I see your comment, AJ. Thank you. Yep. Oh, okay, the testing paper from the testing company. Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And I can stick around if there are any additional questions. Keith, your hand is up. I'm not sure if you have another question. Yeah, that's what I often will leave my hand up so I can relate to that. So yeah, thanks everybody. And we look forward to continuing this work with you. Thanks so much and have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.